ascending the stairs. The madness, sadness, kiss of the dawn. Cover your ass as you stay on the run. It's bonus time. It's time to delay. The Joker is wild, and he's stacking the deck. Below down the floor, around the showdown in hell. Stay on the move, or you won't live to tell.
Hello everyone, today we're going to be having a look at powered parachutes. Powered parachute is a pretty basic form of flight, pretty affordable. So you can see there, basically you just have three wheels there and a motor behind you, and a parachute is your wing. So you can just lay the parachute on the ground and where you go and you take off. So we're going to lay out a wing here and we'll show you how this works here. So first of all, you have to unpack your chute and you take out all the lines and lay it back on the ground. And you got to make sure that none of the lines are crossed and all the cells are open. And then you lay it out nice and flat behind you. Then you jump in the machine and add throttle. So as you add throttle, then the propeller turns faster, the machine starts moving ahead, and a lot more wind comes back. So the combination between it moving ahead and the more wind actually makes the chute come up, and it'll stand up and it'll start to inflate like you see in the picture here. So as you add power, you got to look up, make sure the chute is nice and straight above you and no lines are twisted or bent. The cells are all inflated. Then you can give the power right to full and it'll quickly take off in about 100 feet or so. But that's the trickiest part. You got to make sure everything looks good and the wing's perfect, and then away you go. If anything's not normal in the wing, you have to stop, straighten it out, and then take off again. So once we've gotten that chute inflated and checked it out, make sure everything's good, add power, it takes off really easy, and it's quite easy to fly once you've got that part done. It flies along at 25 miles an hour. The only thing is the wind is bad. The wind is a factor that can cause you a lot of problems because you got a huge chute there, and just a little bit of wind really throws it around a lot. So I don't recommend flying in any wind until you have a fair bit of experience. I would say at least 10 hours before you try going in any wind. But control is quite easy. You just add more throttle, it goes up, and less throttle, it goes down. You want to turn to the right, you pull the steering line to the right or with your foot, and to the left, same thing. So you only have two axes. It's not like an airplane, so you just up and down, right and left. So it's pretty easy to control it. The wind, like you say, is a big problem. You have to make sure that you're taking off into the wind all the time, and when you're landing, into the wind also. You know, same as an airplane. I flew these for about 15 years, so I've got hundreds of hours of experience on a powered parachute. They're very safe because if you do hit something or have problems, you're not going very fast, so you're not going to do a lot of damage. So we're just having a look at the top of the chute here, see how it looks when it's all perfectly inflated there. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, great for checking cows and stuff. You can get up there and check the cows in a few minutes. Pretty cheap to operate, not much for maintenance, and just runs on regular gas. The other disadvantage about a powered parachute is the range. You don't have much of a range flying at 25 miles an hour. So I think you typically fly about 2.5 to 3 hours the most you could fly. So you're talking about maybe 75 miles before you need some fuel. All these sequences here were filmed in Fort St. John, or the different machines I had over the 15 years that I had powered parachutes. So yeah, we used them mostly for checking cows. It was really handy. Took off in the field. I never did take off from an airport. You don't need much of a runway. Took off summer and winter, just a bit of a road. Don't need much of a runway at all. So it's always fun taking other people up with you. My wife here, She's, I think, was one of our first flights there. It's always pretty exciting to take someone up that's never been up before and see the smile on their face when you land. You can probably find a pretty good used power parachute for around $5,000. The chute is by far the most important part, so you make sure you don't buy something that's got a crappy old chute or it's almost worth nothing. So these are some shots that we took actually at our wedding. And lots of people around the cameras. There's got a couple little clips there. You can just kind of see how it lays out and how the square chute works. The square chute is very maneuverable and easy to handle. This other elliptical chute, it flies a lot faster but very hard to turn, and the ground handling is just atrocious on these elliptical chutes. So kind of a high performance thing. This is like a 737, this one. Really easy to fly, easy to land, easy to inflate. So another thing I did with the power parachute was did grass seeding, so that was pretty cool. Just made a little seeder out of a checker plate and put a hose on the bottom, put 2 pails of grass seed in there, and away it went. Worked really well. Did quite a bit of grass seeding on our ranch with it. Seeded alfalfa and clovers and stuff, and a little bit of custom seeding as well. To legally fly a power parachute in Canada, you need to have an ultralight permit or a pilot's license, and you also need to have insurance for liability. So the license you'd have is an ultralight license, but it would be restricted to power parachutes. You can also fly it if you have a pilot's license or an ultralight license. But, you could start out with a powered parachute, and then later you would take some more training, and you could remove that restriction, and you'd be able to fly ultralights or proceed to a recreational license or something like that, if you wanted to upgrade your license. Flight training, you learn a lot more than just handling aircraft. You also learn really important stuff like weather. Here's a picture of one time I took off in a bit of a thunderstorm. I thought I'd get around it, and I was wrong. I had to land in the field, and I got blown backwards, and there was hail, and it was just nasty. I wouldn't be forgetting that for a while. But there's a lot easier ways of learning things than by trial and error. I spent a lot of money there fixing parachutes, replacing props, but I guess it says to the safety of the sport, for hard-headed as I am there, I guess, and did lots of damage to the machine, I never ever put a scratch on myself. So powered parachutes are in the owner maintenance category, so you're responsible for doing your own maintenance. You can hire an AME to work on the machine, or you can work on it yourself. It's not like a certified aircraft. You don't have to have a certified mechanic work on them. So that's a little bit about my experience in the sport, and I hope you've learned a little bit. If you've never seen a powered parachute before, it's kind of an interesting thing to look at there. There's lots of ways a guy can get up in the air there and have a little bit of fun. It's a hobby, and doesn't cost you a whole pile of money. But I really enjoyed it. Like I say, the only real drawback is you're not really can't get very far with it. It's more of a low and slow thing there, but you sure get to see the countryside. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time on Canadian Aviation Adventures.